They were funny and glib and glamorous.
We were working constantly. There were no days off. When we went into hiatus, we went on the road to work, or sometimes we would shoot 2 shows in a week, which was really hard, and then the next week we would go on the road.
Everyone I know whispers you're growing inside of me. I'll say it isn't so.
There was a big fair, and all the guys were taking their girlfriends to it, and I said, son, you want to go? And he went, Cher, that's so ridiculous. No, I don't want to go. I'm having a meeting with Irwin and Dennis, and so I don't want to go. And I just remember thinking, like something just kind of snapped.
This show wasn't really out of gas at this point, but the relationship was out of gas.
She rebelled. She was like a 15-year-old girl whose father tells her she can't do this and she can't do that, and she didn't want to be ruled by somebody.
Sonny was not going to just let me go easily. Plus, everyone was terrified because we employed hundreds of people.
When Sonny and Cher announced that they were going to be divorced, it was almost exactly the same time as the country announced goodbye Nixon. And these were the 2 most shattering experiences of the middle 70s. First of all, the President of the United States was going to be impeached and had to leave, and at the same time, America's sweethearts, Sonny and Cher, were getting divorced, and there wasn't any inkling of that. I mean, everyone knew Nixon was going to go, but nobody knew Sonny and Cher, and so it was a dual, huge disappointment to this country.
And I kept thinking, it's so terrible, but if it's so terrible, how come I feel so good?
Say it.
Good night, everybody.
God bless you.
And so, in 1975, with its ratings still in the top 10, but its stars at odds, CBS reluctantly canceled the Sonny and Cher comedy hour. In 1976, Cher was 30, single, and ready for life as a solo act, or so she thought.
Once Cher and Sonny split up, she had no business experience. She found out that the corporation that bore her name, Cher Enterprises, was owned by Sonny and their attorney.
Soon after her split with Sonny, Cher began a relationship with David Geffen, a record executive with a keen eye for business. It was Geffen who helped Cher unravel the tangled legal and financial web that Sonny had woven.
David said, have you ever read your contract with Sonny? And I said, no. And he said, I don't think it's a good thing. And then I realized I was signed to an employment contract, but I could not go to work unless Sonny allowed it to be done. So David just supported me for a year because I had no money.
Cher's romantic relationship with Geffen didn't last, but she was now more confident and willing to take chances with her personal life.
Ladies and gentlemen, Greg Allman. Greg Allman was like this rock and roll prince, big, tall, blonde, handsome guy. And he was a little dangerous, and she liked that.
At the height of its popularity in the 70s, the Allman Brothers Band epitomized Southern rock, and Greg Allman was its hard-living, hard-rocking frontman.
This guy that worked with me came up to the dressing room and he said, man, you ain't gonna believe who's here. And I said, who? He said, man, Cher's downstairs. So I went outside and looked over the balcony, and boy, she looked good. We went out about 3 or 4 nights later, and that was a disaster.
It was just horrible.
Total disaster.
I hated every place he took me. I hated everything he said. he was coming on with what he thought was his best rock god kind of talk, and it just left me kind of cold.
I called the next day and I said, listen, that was such a bad date. That was so terrible. We've got to do it again just to see if it was really that bad, you know.
And so we went out, and we had a really great time, and then, of course, I fell madly in love with him.
Greg and Cher had a whirlwind courtship and married quickly in Las Vegas. It was just 9 days after her divorce from Sonny was final.
What they did was they spread a big rumor that Frank Sinatra was getting married and that he was there at Caesar's Palace. So everybody was looking for Frank. On the way out, we just eased on through the casino and walked out the door and split.
Greg and Cher were blissfully in love. But most people considered this a marriage made in musical hell.
I don't think America was really thrilled to see her with him.
What everybody said is, how could she go from this guy to this guy?
Sonny was like living with your daddy, with your father.
Greg Allman was not that strong a personality, and it was almost like Cher is saying, screw you, this is another side of me you don't know about, and I don't care because I want to be a part of heavy-duty rock and roll.
Cher wanted to make music with her husband. It was, after all, an arrangement she was used to.
Most of it was her idea. It all started, we were singing in the bathtub. And I thought about it, and I said, well, let's get together some songs.
The Hard Way was released in 1977. Greg and Cher traveled to Europe in support of the album, but audiences were a little confused.
We had the guys in the backpacks smoking the big doobies, right? And then we had people in tuxedos. And I mean, you could see them. Here's the tuxedos, here's the backpacks, you know? And they're going, throw the bitch off the stage, you know?
And the next song we're going to play is called Love Me. It's from our new album, To the Hard Way. Treat me like a fool, treat me mean and cruel.
At that time, the Allman Brothers, everybody was taking drugs, and Greg had problems along those lines.
Take my faithful heart, tear it all apart. Oh, but love me.
She never met anybody like him. I don't think there was any history or any background for knowing what you needed to know to walk into that relationship.
I had no idea that he did drugs.
She knew I did drugs. I did some drugs while we were sitting on the piano there on our first date.
He invited me down to Macon, and I was about to come back, and he woke me up at 6 o'clock in the morning and told me that he was a heroin addict. And I remember calling my mother, and I just had no idea how to take that information and make it into something that I could work with.
She dedicated everything to him. She gave up part of her career and went and babysat him all the while he was in rehab.
I just did whatever you had to do, you know. I would just sit with him all night and help him and hold him, and I thought it would be the last time. Of course, silly me, I didn't realize that it, you know, was never going to be the last time.
We went to the inauguration of the president, and she made me go along because she was afraid of him when he would go into the men's room. They would shoot up with heroin or whatever the heck he did.
Cher stayed with Greg through the birth of their son Elijah Blue in 1976. But soon after, the party was over.
When Elijah was a year old, I just thought, I'm not going to take any chances. I've got 2 children here, and I'm just not going to do it.